So I won't bore you to death with that. Let's jump into the last tab I have here, and I've got one more thing to show you, and then we'll kind of wrap up. The other thing that can drive a lot of this compliance we talked about, certainly optimization and collaboration, is scheduling your assets. Right? If you're running anything more than 3 or 4 dock doors in your warehouse, and you're like most of the customers we have, there is a collision waiting to happen for your trucks arriving to pick up and drop off, because they don't oftentimes have a good schedule to know when to arrive. So what our scheduling app does is kind of what its name would imply. Think of this as Outlook for supply chain. It simply allows you to drag and drop your activities that start in your ERP, perhaps, start in the warehouse, perhaps, right out onto the dashboard here. You can make this available to the external audience. It tracks if you've got more than one facility. You can have as many facilities as you choose. It's built around the notion of color schemes. So let's maximize this, and then we'll come down and look at this thing called appointment status type. One of the things that's important, and we found this to be important globally, is monitoring the success of your carriers as they come to your facility to pick up or drop off. Because they tell you, I'm going to be there at 10, I'll be in the door for 45 minutes, that's all I need. And they show up at 9:40 or 10:15, and they're there for an hour and a half. And they would be happy to fine you if you make them wait. If they say 10 and they show up at 10 and you can't get them in until 11, they'll send you a bill for the time that they sit idling in your yard. But if they're late, or early, or take longer than planned, you generally got no means of knowing that to be able to negotiate that relationship more effectively in the future. So what we do is allow you to build a user-defined workflow. So that user-defined workflow and color-coded, when I'm in the appointment schedule, I can see visually that a purple appointment is what? Purple appointment is active. When I progress that purple appointment and say, let's see, that truck is now available to load. It's just got here. So we'll change it from active to available to load. We'll adjust the color scheme on the fly so that visually anybody in the warehouse can see that truck has arrived at the guard shack and is now on its way to the door. I can tell by the light blue that happens to be an outbound order, not an inbound order, so the truck's coming in to get loaded. As I move it from ready to load to in process, I'll change the color again. As I change it from loading in process to the truck is loaded, I'll change it again. And I time and date stamp every time I make that change. So I know when they arrived, I know how long it took them to get from the guard shack to the door, I know how long it took them to the door to get loaded, I know how long it took them from the loading stage to get to the guard shack and be checked out. And you set the stages. It can be as simple as 1 or 2 stages, or as fast as 8 or 10. I would probably recommend against that. But you can make that as granular as you choose, and then run KPIs back to the dashboard to show you a scorecard, for example, for a carrier. And since I can post that out on my website, I can give my carrier a login, define the information that I want them to see, and let them take a look at their own scorecard to see how they're doing against their big area audacious goals with me. Now the last thing in the software, we'll jump back over and kind of finish up. I told you about this notion of interactive alerts, the system actually reaching out to me. So you think about that, well, how can that be simple? So we were looking at an appointment a minute ago. So let's say what I wanted to do was every time an appointment got created for a particular carrier, what I want to do is I want to send an email to someone. So I'm going to say when that appointment gets set up, I want to send, pick a carrier. So I position down here to the carrier and say, let's see, my carrier ID is equal to, not equal to, starts with, ends with, contains, doesn't contain the following terminology. So I'm going to filter it by that, maybe on a particular arrival date or a volume of work or whatever I want to filter on. So when a new appointment gets created for that carrier on that day with that load for that consignee, whatever the case might be, I want to send an email to Ross Elliott with the subject of it's or something equally booming. Then I want to construct an email. So let's say I want to get really fancy, and I want to jump in and I want to create something with pictures and the whole 9 yards. So I can go insert pictures and tables and hyperlinks and symbols, and fundamentally create any HTML-based email that I want. I can come down and I can set up data that I want to load. I want to load the carrier information in. Sorry about that. I want to load who created it. I want to load the inbound information. I construct on the fly an email that I can type, and I can insert data that came in through the appointment being created. Once I'm done with that, I save it and I schedule it, and without any further interaction, when those specific set of criteria are reached, that email gets sent out to whoever you asked for it to be sent out to. And you obviously can have as many of these as you choose to, going back through the system. And you notice it can be emails, it can be text messages, or we can actually have things pop up and show up in our workspace alert delivery system. So I could spend a lot more time in terms of going through the application with you. I'm not going to. I'm going to come down and we'll finish with a couple of thoughts. Remembering our goals, we wanted to reduce operational costs, improve customer service, provide world-class compliance, and leverage real-time information. Hopefully, you can see how those big, hairy, audacious goals might work for your business. And in a very compressed time frame, you can see how we have tools that as you go through your selection of what's my process, what tools do I have available to me today, what tools do I need in addition, we might have some of those tools collectively with MicroChannel that would help arm you more effectively against that goal. Now, my last cosmic rule, you saw the first one was my friend who had been run over in the road. This cosmic rule says you don't have to outrun the economy, you just have to outrun your competition. So always keep in mind, this is back to identify the process that you want to go after. Look for that low-hanging fruit. Don't try to be the best day one. Try to have a plan to be the best over time. Maybe you're the best now, and so please don't take offense at my comments. But you don't have to be better than everybody. You just have to be better than the guy you're competing with today. I'll stop there. Questions?